So the first step of editing generally is taking the voiceover that I've recorded and chopping it up into a timeline, leaving gaps for the clips of music I'm going to play. I'll also leave little markers for where I'm going to put inserts that I filmed to camera, because I've not actually filmed the to camera bit yet. But of course, I'll speed this up for you. And here we go. So this is the timeline as it will stand. And this is the first time really actually in the whole process that I get a sense of how long the video is going to be. And it's interesting how, generally speaking, they'll wind up at about 10 to 20 minutes long. Like, I don't plan the length of a video. It just kind of winds up being about that time. You can see this one is currently at 10 minutes 30. It will wind up being a bit longer than that because there's going to be an outro here. But, you know, they generally wind up being the same length. And, yeah, I've put these markers in to show where I'll be inserting certain things. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the clips of music in. So, for example, here I say something about All Along the Watchtower, and I'm going to put a clip of All Along the Watchtower in here. And I've actually already made sure that this gap is about 8 seconds long, because it's ultimately 8 seconds is the length that the clip can be without getting an automatic copyright claim. So how I get the music is I just go to YouTube, get a good version of it, pull it off using this app, which is called 4K Video Downloader. You can see there's already some songs in there which I've downloaded for other videos, and just shove them in. It's generally the easiest way. So I've now gone through and put in all of our audio clips for the entire video, including the alternative versions of songs. So when I've shown what a song would sound like if it used a different tonality, which is one of my favourite things to do when I make these videos. The next step we need to do is start creating some of the visuals. Right now we have no visuals at all, it's just audio. And the main way that I create visuals is by creating things in MuseScore. So I'll create some sheet music or some sort of diagram in MuseScore, and I will then screen capture what I make in MuseScore using this piece of software called ScreenPresso, which basically allows you to, if I press like this, allows you to select a region of the screen to either record or take a picture of. So I'm going to get started with that. I thought I'd talk you through what I'm doing at this precise moment. I've created this graphic in MuseScore where we've got the Aeolian scale at the top and the harmonic minor scale at the bottom, and it's so we can compare the two. Something I want to do is have the harmonic minor bit in red. As you can see, it's currently in blue. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to do it in Vegas, because it means, for example, here where the little blue thing comes along to show where we're playing, that will turn red as well, which is something I couldn't do in MuseScore. So how I'm doing this, I'm going to copy it up so it's in this channel up here, and you can see it's now gone red. And that's because this channel, the one I've called red, has a color corrector on it which changes it to the color red. And now obviously we've got this in red, but we don't want the top bit in red. So what I'm going to do is also on this channel, I'm going to add in a crop here. Add that. And then I can drag, I need to drag it from here, that down, revealing the layer below, which is the same thing but not made red. And now it travels in red. It looks, and this is, you know, as I said, that's something I can't do in MuseScore. Okay, so I've been doing visuals for quite a few hours now. As you can see, I've got probably the first 2/3 of the video done. It's very satisfying looking back at it like this, actually. I'm now to this point here. I now need to do the sheet music for Sultans of Swing. And something I do quite a lot, if I can, is I copy existing sheet music because it just saves time. And it's a good way of sort of having a second opinion on how to transcribe it, if you know what I mean, rather than going with just my impulse on how to transcribe it. I can see how someone else has transcribed it, and occasionally I will make changes from what they've done, because sometimes there's more than one way that you can transcribe something, and sometimes they have made very subtle, well, I wouldn't say mistakes, but there's subtle inaccuracies in there. But anyway, I'm going to have a go at transcribing this now. Okay, so that's the next day, and I'm just doing the last bits of visual. I've really not got that far left to go. I think it's this much timeline left to do. As you can see, I've already cracked into it a little bit here. But I just thought I'd show you what I'm doing at this precise moment, because it's just a little sort of problem-solving thing. I've created the sheet music for this Beatles song here, but because I've done 3 lines of music and I've not formatted them very tight to each other, they're actually sort of taking a bit too much space and they're getting in the way of this title, even though I've made this title small already. So what I can do is I've put them in their own channel here, and if I go on this feature here, I can just change the size of the entire channel. Anything in that channel will now get adjusted in size, and that will just help me create a bit more space. Yeah, I don't want it to be too small, obviously. Let's do it that, because I do want this title to be a bit bigger, because it's a bit ridiculously small right now. Oops. Let's go to 5. Yeah, that looks alright. Cool. And one thing I need to do for this as well is, at one point here I start talking about the Roman numerals of the chords, the chord functions. So I'm going to write them in now. I'm trying to think how many I want. I'm only going to do the bottom line, because that's basically all we're talking about. And I always do these in Times New Roman, because I think, well, Roman numerals look best in Times New Roman. So yeah, let's have a go at that. So I've just filmed the outro to the video, which will be a piano piece that I've written, which is exclusively using the Aeolian scale. First of all, I'm going to sync up the audio. So this in orange is the camera's internal audio, which, as you can imagine, doesn't sound that good. This is the directly recorded audio from the keyboard, which sounds much, much better. So I need to make sure they're in time with each other. So I'll use this little sound at the end to line up the audio waves. Yeah, so that's in time. Get rid of the orange one. Now we've just got the nice sounding audio. And I'll just clip this together so it's all one long clip. Right, so the sound is done. As you can see, the visual is, well, first of all, it's upside down. So let's remedy that. Rotate the angle by 180 degrees. And this is the point where I check whether the keyboard is in line. So I can bring this grid up on Vegas. And as you can see, if we compare this line here to the sort of edge of the keyboard, you can see here it's wider than here, which is because, well, you can see it quite clearly up here. The camera was not quite in line. And that's because it is very difficult to get the camera in line when doing these overhead shots. So what I'm doing is I'm rotating it slightly just to get it as consistent as I can. That'll do. And then because I've rotated it, obviously, it's kind of hard to see, but at the edges up there, there's a bit of black where the frame has gone beyond the footage. So if I just zoom in a little bit like that, that will help remedy that. And I think I might move the whole angle slightly to the right now that I've done that, because a lot of the action is happening in the left-hand side of the screen. Cool, that's done. And now the last thing to do with this is, well, as you have probably seen from other videos before of mine, I don't normally leave this top half looking the way it does now, because I think it looks a bit messy. So what I'm going to do is create a mask to go over the top. So now I've got that still frame in Photoshop, as you can see. What I'm going to do now is grab some of this red here. Needs to be purely red. There we go. And I'm going to expand that red out so it covers the entire keyboard like that, and then up as well into there. Cool. Now, as you can see, that isn't quite going to cut it yet, because it looks a bit grainy in that. So what I'm going to do is make a copy of this red that I've done, and I'm on this new layer, which looks like that. I'm going to blur it. Just a sort of subtle one to even out the tone of it. Bring back that layer now. You can kind of see that over on the right here, it's blending nicely, but on the other side, not as much. I might just sort of adjust it a little bit like that. Okay, so we've now created our mask, as you can see, and what I'm going to do is now save it, but without the original image there. So I can just save over it. And now if we go back into Vegas, it will update, and like magic, our mask has now been applied. That's how I do it. So beyond that, all I might now do is I'm going to give this its own video track, so I know it's a fresh track. Give it a name, piano track. And all I might do now is just adjust the lighting slightly using the levels tool here. Just because I want it to sort of, I'll show you what this does by doing it quite extreme. Brings out the whites. So I want it to be a little bit whiter. This one brings out, not this one, that one. Brings out the blacks. Let's just want a tiny bit of that. If I do a before and after, so this is with it, that's without it. It just makes it pop a bit more. And that's lovely. Also, now that I look at it, it looks a little bit yellowish, doesn't it? So I'm also going to add white balance to this. And what you can do with white balance is choose what's meant to be white, which is that. And you can see it kind of took a blue tone out. It gave it more of a blue tone. So this is without white balance. It's sort of almost a bit orange. And that's with white balance. It tries to balance out that orangeness by adding more blue. And I think it's done a good job there. So I've now filmed the to-camera footage for this video. So one of the last things I need to do is fit the footage in to the gaps I left earlier for it. But before doing that, I need to synchronize the better quality audio. So here's the audio for that. As you can see, it's significantly shorter because I decided to sack off part of the script. So there's this bit here I actually got rid of. So you'll never know what I had to say there. But it just wasn't relevant enough. You know, it probably would have been more confusing than helpful. This is slightly less simple as syncing the piano music was earlier. Actually, that looks like that's where it goes, isn't it? It's like a little jigsaw. You have to work out where it goes, but that looks about right. Just line up the sound waves like that. That's probably about right. What I'll do, I'll have a little listen to it, check if it's in time. The Aeolians. Yeah, so you can't hear a difference really between the two. Just so you get an impression of why I do separate audio. This is how the inbuilt camera audio sounds. The Aeolian scale, the natural minor, has a... And here is what the external audio sounds like, the audio I record using this microphone that's on screen. The Aeolian scale, the natural minor, has a... As you can hear it, a world different, a world apart from each other. So that's why I do that, and I think audio quality is very important with this sort of thing. And recently, actually, I've installed these acoustic panels that you can see in the background. This is actually the first video where you'll be able to see them. And that makes a big difference as well, because it just makes this room a much deader space. But anyway, back to the case in hand, what I'm meant to be doing. We can kind of quite clearly see where each take is, but I need to go through and separate them out. Let's do that now. So now I'm really down to the last finishing touches of this video. All of the visuals and sound and everything are there. I'm basically just going through now, catching any mistakes, fixing any little errors, and also making sure that the audio levels are consistent. And for example, I just found that the audio for me speaking to camera versus the audio of me doing a voiceover, it sounds less bright, the voiceover. So I'm just going to use the inbuilt EQ on Vegas to just give it a little bit of a lift. A good way to think about the sound of Aeolian, of the natural minor, is to compare it to our other common minor scale, the harmonic minor. Just a tiny little touch there, but helps add a bit of clarity. And now I am done with the editing. I'm just letting it render. And the only reason now that I will have to come and change anything is if I run into any copyright issues, which is a tale as old as time. But thank you so much for watching. Hopefully that sheds some light on how I put my videos together. And let me know if you would like to see this sort of thing again.